minimum wage in Washington is almost double what it is in Idaho, and that difference is making it hard to find certain healthcare workers in the gem state.
In your forecast, more wet weather on the way. I'll tell you if that means rain or snow next.
And Washington State's ban on flavored vape products is coming to an end. We'll learn more about what happens next now the ban is lifted. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
And I'm Whitney Ward. We have an interesting story tonight. Mark, what do we have tonight?
Yeah, we're going to start off with weather tonight because the forecast, boy, it was snowing and now it's raining and now it's kind of a mix of both, at least here on the South Hill. Tom, what's the latest?
Yeah, we are seeing some snow in the Spokane area. It's not really sticking right now. When you take a look at our advisories, we're getting so much rain falling down into the Palouse, that area shaded in green, Washington and Idaho Palouse. We actually have a flood advisory in effect through tomorrow afternoon. Mostly minor flooding expected, mostly in agricultural areas over towards Kellogg and St. Mary's. That area is shaded in purple right there. That's a winter weather advisory in effect until about 7 o'clock tonight. An avalanche warning until, well, it should be expiring here pretty soon over in the northern Cascades. And also, it has been raining so much on the west of the side of the state. They've got a flood warning in effect over there. So again, some very, very, wet conditions all across the Pacific Northwest. There you go. There's a look at the rain and the rain snow line. So we're getting snow up north in the Deer Park area, farther north, Chewelah, Colville, seeing some of that wet snow falling for most of eastern Washington right now, at least south of I-90. It is just falling in the form of rain. And our best chances of rain are going to be in the evening and early overnight hours through about 3 o'clock in the morning. So look for an overnight low of 33. Also some fog will develop towards tomorrow morning. I think we'll be in the Spokane area under mostly cloudy skies with a daytime high of 41. Looks like we're going to see temperatures rise to 42 on Saturday with a chance of maybe some rain and snow showers on Saturday. None of that will accumulate though. And then on Sunday, I've got partly cloudy skies and a dry day. Might even see a glimpse of the sun. We'll shoot for a high of 40. I'll check your 10-day outlook coming up in a few minutes.
Sounds good, Tom. Thank you very much. And speaking of wet weather, major flooding happened over in western Washington. 11 people, including several children and animals, were rescued from an apartment that flooded in Issaquah. In the last 2 days, about 2.5 inches of rain fell in that area. Fire crews used rafts to rescue the people. Governor Jay Inslee has issued an emergency proclamation for the flooding. Most western Washington rivers are under flood watches or warnings. Some in the South Puget Sound area are even being told to evacuate due to increased flow out of the LeGrand Dam.
Well, the show must go on, right? Even without instruments. Someone stole thousands of dollars worth of instruments from Liberty High School. That was about 3 weeks ago.
But the band wasn't going to let that stop their practice. They were focused on finding their rhythm again.
KREM 2's Shayna Waltower explains tonight how donations made that possible.
These students haven't missed a beat. Considering for a moment, many of them couldn't play their instruments. About 3 weeks ago, someone broke into Liberty High School and stole about $15,000 worth of instruments.
Is anyone else missing an instrument? And then we started seeing hands, and that's when we realized, uh-oh, something has happened.
Several saxophones and bass guitars were missing. That cost students their practice time, with regional playoffs just about a month away.
It was upsetting, very upsetting for the students that lost their instruments because we still kind of had to have like 30 minutes of class and so those kids kind of didn't have something to do.
But thanks to a close community and friendly connections, Mr. Pendon's class was back to making music in just about a week.
We actually had a good outpouring for a week of people donating instruments, and so I was able to have a kid playing the bass guitar the next day because we had a student's parent bring in a bass so that he could use it.
Pendon says he also worked with music companies to get brand new replacements.
It was really uplifting to see the community come out for us and to see all the people that were behind these students and to help us recover from it.
So while the class says they are hoping for a close to the case, they're not letting it interrupt their harmony.
We'll just start there. Everybody la-lay, ready, and la-lay-li-la-loo, ready, go.
Now the band is getting ready for the playoffs coming up next week. Pendon says he believes his crew is ready. Now, Crime Stoppers is also offering a reward of up to $1,000 to anyone who can bring police to arrest the suspect. In Spangle, Shayna Walltower, KREM 2 News.
It's been devastating to the industry. It's been hit pretty hard.
That is what one vape shop owner says the statewide ban has done to the industry. It's been 4 months since that ban went into effect in Washington.
Public health officials had hoped the ban would allow them more time to figure out exactly what was making people sick and in some cases dying from vaping. KREM 2's Tim Pham went to find out if the ban made a difference.
A wall once filled with endless flavors is now down just to 2 shelves of options at Sublime Vapor.
It devastated us. I mean, it damn near killed us.
Sublime Vapor's general manager says they've had to close 2 Spokane stores and lay off all but one of their employees.
We had to shut down our South and Valley. The South is permanently shut down. The Valley we hope to reopen soon, but it's all just depending on what happens next.
They aren't alone. Many vape shops couldn't survive the 120-day flavor ban the State Board of Health approved in October. A nationwide outbreak of lung injuries tied to vaping led to bans like the one here in Washington, while researchers learned more about what made people sick. Dr. Bob Lutz is a voting member of the board, so we asked him if the temporary ban has made a difference.
We definitely have seen across the country a significant drop in number of cases.
Starting Saturday, stores can sell again, but they're unsure for how long.
We're kind of in a holding pattern, like we'll bring our stuff back, but we don't know how long we're going to be able to get to have it and to what capacity.
With multiple bills in the state legislature, it's possible flavors could go away again.
That's why we're still encouraging. We always encourage people. It's an addictive substance. Look to proven methods to stop your usage.
But Blodgett says he's heard more people are turning back to traditional tobacco, which to him is more concerning than vaping.
You don't have the 5,000 plus chemicals that are poisoning you. You have nicotine, propylene glycol, vegetable glycerin, and hopefully on Saturday, flavors that are artificial or natural flavored.
However, Dr. Lutz is more concerned about young people who aren't using vaping to kick the habit.
And once they're over the age of 21, it's available to them. And so again, we're just perpetuating addiction, and a legal addiction, and the health outcomes associated with that are of concern.
Legislators are now in session, and they're considering a number of bills. Some enhance regulations, while some would allow certain flavors. Blodgett hopes lawmakers find a solution that work for his customers.
They're very disappointed in our government. They're very disappointed in the politics that have gone around here. I have so many outraged people. I've been dealing with outraged people every day for 4 months.
The legislative session ends mid-March. By then, we could learn more about the fate of the vaping industry in Washington. In Spokane, I'm Tim Pham, KREM 2 News.
Spokane Valley Police arrested a 13-year-old girl after she made social media threats on a dare. Police say 3 students at West Valley City School reported those threats. Then police later found out one of those 3 students was actually the one who sent it. Police say it doesn't appear there was an actual plan, though, to hurt anyone. Also, a 4th suspect was arrested for helping the gunman in the downtown Seattle shooting last month. She's the girlfriend of one of the suspects. Police say she helped them leave the state. Her name is Daishora Galbert. She's now charged with felony rendering criminal assistance. Investigators say she drove her boyfriend, Marquise Tolbert, and his accomplice, William Tolliver, to Las Vegas after the shooting on January 22nd. Both men are now facing first-degree murder charges for their roles in that shooting that killed 1 and injured 7 others.
President Donald Trump discussed his acquittal on impeachment charges at a White House event earlier today. He took the opportunity to praise his friends and supporters in attendance.
Total acquittal. Total acquittal. Mitch McConnell, I want to tell you, you did a fantastic job.
President Trump went on to take aim at some of the Democrats who led the impeachment inquiry.
Adam Schiff is a vicious, horrible person. Nancy Pelosi is a horrible person. And she wanted to impeach a long time ago when she said, I pray for the president. I pray for the president. She doesn't pray. She may pray, but she prays for the opposite.
The president also took aim at Republican Senator Mitt Romney at the National Prayer Breakfast today. Romney broke party lines and voted to convict President Trump on 1 impeachment charge. The president claimed he didn't like people who use their faith to, quote, do what they know is wrong. Meantime, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi weighed in.
Mischaracterizing other people's motivation. He's talking about things that he knows little about, faith and prayer.
Meantime, Democrats praised Senator Romney's vote, calling it courageous. Well, when comparing Washington and Idaho, there are certainly several factors that stick out. One is a stark difference, though: minimum wage. Idaho's minimum wage sits at $7.25 an hour.
Washington, meanwhile, nearly double that at $13.50. In fact, it's one of the highest in the country. So what does that mean for North Idaho businesses or their employees? Are workers jumping over the border?
Our Taylor Vito looked into that. He joined us live in the newsroom tonight with what he found out. Taylor.
Well, guys, Washington's minimum wage may certainly play a role in the workforce in North Idaho. It's hard to quantify how much, though. It's worth noting that unemployment in Idaho is low, so that drives up wages anyways. But I did find one North Idaho industry that says it's seen employees jumping over the border for work.
Another week and another busy day for staff at Northwest Specialty Hospital in Post Falls. It's the new norm in the surgery prep area. The hospital is coming off its busiest year to date. Northwest Specialty had the highest amount of employees ever in 2019, but not all of those workers necessarily hung around for long.
Frustrating for a manager, really is frustrating.
Some employees left to chase other opportunities, jobs just 17 miles down the road, so to speak.
It's a true cost to an organization, and it's challenging.
Northwest Specialty says it's been losing a decent chunk of employees who have left for higher paying jobs in Washington. More on that in a minute. But first, let's talk about the difference in minimum wage. Just last month, Washington's minimum wage went up to $13.50 an hour. That's one of the highest in the country. But while someone could be making minimum wage in, say, Liberty Lake, for example, a worker just miles away in State Line, Idaho, could be making $7.25 an hour. That's Idaho's minimum wage. So does that mean there's a bevy of folks in Kootenai County making drastically less an hour than their counterparts in Washington? And is there a massive influx of minimum wage workers coming to Spokane County? Not necessarily. Economists I reached out to said the impact in minimum wage difference between the two states is somewhat hard to pinpoint. But here's what's most important to note. A North Idaho economist with Idaho's Department of Labor points out that Idaho's unemployment rate is already low, and a tight labor market by nature will drive up wages. In fact, he added that federal data showed only 11,000 workers at minimum wage across Idaho in 2018. What we can see is that there are some entry-level jobs in Kootenai County that pay above Idaho's $7.25 minimum wage. For example, the website Indeed.com shows a job posting for Taco Bell in Coeur d'Alene paying $12 an hour. Goodwill in Post Falls is hiring a cashier at $10.50. But let's go back to Northwest Specialty Hospital and their proximity to the state line.
I think the temptation is stronger for folks to jump across the border.
In particular, the hospital has seen two specific jobs impacted by higher wages in Washington: housekeeping staff and certified nursing assistants, or CNAs for short.
Our housekeepers and our CNAs made up over 1/3 of our turnover last year. We are seeing a little bit higher salary ranges in Spokane versus North Idaho there.
HR Director Chris Gregg says the hospital has seen employees migrating to Spokane Valley for work. Up until last year, housekeepers at Northwest Specialty were at $12 an hour. But to curb the turnover, the hospital upped that to $15 an hour. As for CNAs, Greg says they usually start at $12 to $13 an hour, but the temptation to go over the border is there. For example, a search on Providence Spokane's jobs website brings up 47 positions when you search CNA.
Some of the wage disparity between Washington and Idaho has really impacted us. We've had to change some of our tactics and strategies.
And he realizes that a difference of $1 or $2 an hour can have an impact. I also reached out to Kootenai Health and asked if they've seen similar issues. In a statement, the hospital didn't provide specifics, but said they do have to take Washington wages into consideration like other North Idaho employers. Human resources staff establish wage ranges based on national trends too, the hospital said. Panhandle Health District told me they've had a hard time retaining nurses because they not only compete with Washington, but also private industry. The district says it attempts to curb that by offering attractive benefits.
And I know a lot of North Idaho healthcare industry partners and leaders, they want to curtail that movement.
Craig says hospital leaders are currently looking at ways to differentiate themselves as an employer and retain good staff. As more and more people move to North Idaho each year, they appear ready to stay busy.
You know, we're looking at our patient feedback and scores every single day as a leadership team. So that's what's important to us.
And speaking of Post Falls, I also reached out to the Post Falls Chamber of Commerce regarding the wage difference. The Chamber's president tells me she is aware of some businesses that have workforce issues relating to people jumping over the border for work. I asked to speak with some of those businesses, but none responded to us. In the studio, Taylor Vito, KREM 2 News.